everyone, and welcome to the second episode of our series Building Bridges, Not Walls. A series where we delve into meaningful conversation that aim to connect rather than divide. So, I am your host Hifza, super excited to have you join us on a topic today that often stays in the shadows but impacts so many lives: men's mental health. Thank you so much for being here. And before I start, I would have to take a moment to thank all of you for the overwhelming response that you gave us to our previous episode of relationship dynamics and conflicts. The lovely support, the thoughtful messages, and the incredible questions that you have sent our way have been, nothing short of humbling. Uh, Clear that all of these topics are very resonating with so many of us, and I promise that we are going to explore all of these suggestions one episode at a time. Today, we are stepping into the conversation that's very vital yet very under discussed. We hit the end of November, and November is supposed to be celebrated as awareness for the men's mental health. But I didn't see that much celebration like we celebrate the other day. So we thought of talking about it. We thought to discuss about how men are expected to be strong all the time, to keep it together. But what does it really say about their emotional well-being? Why do men have to struggle in silence? And most importantly, what we can do collectively, all of us, to change this narrative. This episode is all about answering, discussing all of these questions and statements, and challenging the stereotypes that's holding us back. Very happy to be joined by two remarkable individuals who bring both passion as well as expertise into this discussion. First, we have Dr. Bilal Shadani, brilliant mind and driving force behind Building Bridges, Not Walls. His vision to spark the meaningful conversation like this one has, truly set the tone for this series. Very honored to be welcomed Dr. Shehbaz Bhatti, a renowned surgeon with over 20 years of experience. Dr. Bhatti, has having a background of MBBS and a master's in neurosurgery, currently working as a consultant neurosurgeon, specializing in minimally invasive techniques, I guess, yes. He doesn't only
Spot
excel
on.
in the operating room, but he's also very deeply passionate about exploring the connection between neurological health and mental well-being together. He's bringing a very unique perspective on the intersection of between these two, our neurons and mental health, and has a passion about breaking the stigma that men face when it comes to seeking help on daily basis. So the conversation, I believe, will leave you with the plenty of to reflect on. So I'm not going to delay. Let's get right into the conversation. Thank you so much for joining in. How are you two doing?
Oh, no complaints. Just happy to be here with Shahbaz. He's a good personal friend. He's a friend of the channel. We've known each other for years, and just super grateful that he could join us today. Especially as someone who's in a neighboring field, I would say. It's always important to get more perspective when it comes to something as underrepresented as men's mental health. How you doing, buddy?
Hi Bilal, hi Afza. Thank you for the lovely introduction, Afza. And yes, this is one of my passions, and Bilal and I share this mutually. We've been having many discussions about this
Yeah.
almost on a weekly basis. But it's good that people are now bringing this
Yeah.
into focus. And let's begin.
I'll talk about being a woman who's very famous being a feminist, but talking about mental health for men with two men out there. So very excited to write and go into the conversation and learn a lot of things that I don't know on my side. So I will start with a very primary topic, that mental health when it comes to men. Why is it always overlooked and overshadowed? Why is it like that when it comes to men?
Wow. Okay. Shahbaz, you go first.
Okay, well, I think it's just the narrative about men and how they're perceived in society is what basically makes it difficult for guys to come out with their feelings. That would be the first and foremost important thing. That you're supposed to be this manly figure, this figurehead, this person who everybody's supposed to depend on. So admitting to weakness, it's sort of perceived as admitting to weakness. And the second thing is it's a biological difference, which I think we'll cover in a little bit. Let's talk about the psychological aspect of it first. I'm sure Dr. Bilal can shed more light on that.
Okay. So Dr. Shabazz is absolutely correct. It's the perceptions that are put on us in the lens of, being men or being women. Men are considered, the go-getters. They go out, they earn, they come home. So the idea is that we are supposed to be, I wouldn't say aggressive, but we're supposed to be go-getters. We're supposed to be, ambitious, full of initiative. We're supposed to do things. And if someone is struggling, well, that's not relevant because you still have to get the job done. One of the things which I think is key to understanding the male psyche is, and this is something I heard on a different podcast, was that men don't actually process their problems. They just move on with them. They won't sit and think about it. They'll just say, okay, just do it. That's it. That's and that's a.
I'm very curious. How does that happen? Because it doesn't happen with women. We got a rant.
Yes, because a big part, I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong, a big part of being a woman is nurturing, is being taught how to be kind, be good, to enable conversation and whatnot. With men, it's always some variant of get the job done, go do it. Right? Nobody cares about your feelings. And it sounds rather harsh to say it that way, but that's actually true. Nobody cares because talking about your feelings doesn't solve the problem. And if you can't solve the problem, like Dr. Shabazz said, that's an indication of weakness. Now, the thing is that in men, all of us like to believe that we are strong, we're go-getters. We like to believe that. But the problem is, it doesn't matter what you believe, your actions have to show it, right? So the idea is that, for example, I'll use a very, very basic example. Who do you respect more? The son of a billionaire who does nothing but has all the money in the world, or the housekeeping staff that are, washing public bathrooms and whatnot? Who would you respect more?
The second one, obviously.
Invariably, because they're doing something. A man's value is equivalent to his contribution to society, right? It's really that simple. It's that simple.
But what I am hearing is they are defined terms.
Yeah.
They're so rigidly defined that you cannot have a gray line to that. You cannot have a flexibility in that. And when you use the word aggressive, majority of the time we have heard that in order to be, I'll talk about masculinity and femininity. There are very defined terminologies that we use in order to define if you are masculine or not. And if you will find one or two traits in a woman, you will start calling them a masculine woman instead. So how do we actually define a masculine man? What is masculinity? Do emotions have a role to play in it? If you are an emotional being, then you are not masculine enough, because that's what I have been hearing all the time, that there are very defined categories. Either you have to be towards the masculine side or towards the feminine side. There is no in between. You can't have a different traits.
So actually, I think, Shabazz, what do you think, Dr. Shabazz?
I think
I think you have a good example on this one.
Yes, I do. Zen. I would say you could look at the ad, for example, Lynx body spray, or you could look at the Marlboro Man or anything like that, and you can just figure out what our entire world is basically telling us what masculinity is. So you want everybody to focus on that, and then you can't have that image fed in throughout life, and then suddenly say, okay, yeah, you can have feelings now. So it's a completely different thing.
Yeah. So let's put it this way. The Marlboro Man, for anyone who's a millennial or older, or if the Axe body spray or Lynx body spray, you'll notice that they're very masculine coded. You will have someone who is either extremely chiseled, well kept, like they're very toned and defined in their body shape. They will be of a certain height, they will be a certain complexion, and they will usually be engaging in stereotypes of their gender. So let's take the body spray one. It'll be someone who's getting ready for a party or who's going out, and all of a sudden they're now being fawned over by swarms of women. Right? It appeals to the fantasy of what it is, almost to a comical level of what it is to be a man. Right? The Marlboro Man
Johnny
is
Bravo.
usually a cowboy. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the Johnny, the to a almost comical degree, right? The Marlboro Man is extremely masculine because he's a cowboy and he's doing nothing except just looking handsome, just standing there while smoking, and somehow the smoking is enhancing his masculinity, even
Yeah,
though
absolutely.
It was a different time, I
but
guess
what is
when
he?
we were
What is he?
younger with the smoking thing, that was what they were aimed in. And then in the 90s, it was the Lynx and the Axe body sprays.
Yeah,
And even now, if you look at ads,
yeah, yeah,
it's marketed in the same way.
yeah,
I'll add into that the very good points of bringing up the advertisement. For example, the Axe body spray or the Marlboro ad.
yeah, yeah.
But it simply means that social media or media has a very important role to play in defining the terms, in defining the masculinity. Every time I would see an ad, for example, razors, they will use it as an object, and a guy being a babe magnet. So why isn't social media playing any role in order to change all of these ideas that men can feel as well, instead of just being very what do we call macho, and feeling less numb, no
No,
emotions?
men
Why not?
absolutely feel. I
So the
don't
thing
think.
is,
Yeah, go ahead, Bilal.
yeah, yeah. I was just literally going. You took the words out of my mouth. It's not that men are incapable of feeling.
But they're
It's just
incapable of
that
expressing.
yes, there. It's one, and two. There's no overt reward for us in sharing. There's no reward for us. Think about it. When a woman shares her feelings, usually it's in the pursuit of look at how hurt she is, and then her talking about it improves the relationship. A man talking about it, and most of the time it's just okay. So what are you going to do about it? Right? It still boils down to that, right? So, and because also you have to remember that women, generally speaking, create relationships that are usually quite widespread, whereas with men, we pick and choose who we consider in our close relationships. So, when you talk about social media affecting or not affecting this, the thing is that, again, the trends of society are changing, right? Like again, the Marlboro Man is no longer considered the pinnacle of masculinity because of the association with smoking, lung cancer, and what. So now it's changed into something completely different. You'll see that the ads no longer now focus on the masculine component; they focus on the party component. When you're having a good time. It's men and women. Because back then women smoking wasn't something desirable. Now there's no gender sort of association. Now it's just about a good time. So the thing is that yes, there is a change, but that again depends on the societal lens that you view it through. Unfortunately, the problem is that when men try and talk about their feelings, only other men seem to understand what they're going through. Women struggle quite a bit when it comes to men talking. So, for example, if a man starts talking about, I've been feeling bad for a while, tell me more. Why are you going through this? What happened? This and that. Whereas in a man's mind, it's just, look, I don't want to talk about it. Can we just fix this? Just move on. There it is
There's
again.
another thing
We
that
don't
I
deal
like
with it. We just move on.
interpret or
Yeah, yeah, go
interrupt
ahead, go
Dr.
ahead.
Bilal. It's also how we process emotions, which is different in men and women. So for men,
Yeah,
if I personally, let's say if I'm going through something, if something is troubling me, I have to say it once and I'm done with it, right? Next focus for me is how am I going to fix this? I don't want to talk about what it made me feel like. It doesn't help. It just stresses me out more. And that's true for most people, for most men, at least in my
As
experience.
I was about to say, is it universal? It's applicable on every man, or do we have to
But
explore
you
that
can't have
for
every
every man?
statement anymore. There are obviously going to be exceptions. But for most men, and that's how we process
yeah,
emotions as a gender, that we tend to focus on problem solving rather than how we got there, right? What's done is done. We can explain it to you
yeah,
once, but after that, if I'm going to go over it again, it's going to stress me out or it's going to end up just pissing me off. That's all that's going to establish or accomplish. But for women, we have to talk about
yeah,
it. You have to dissect every little bit of it, and that's what makes you feel better, and that's all right as well. It's just different genders handle situations differently. So, and another
yeah,
thing I've noticed is that women often complain about men not sharing emotions, but we talk about it in guy stuff. There's a lot of talk about that happens, but it's
yeah.
just it's one word. Hey, yeah,
And,
I
and
did
I
that.
think
And
guys talk about women being, a nagger all the time. She's not shutting up.
So I'm going to jump in on that one. So that particular sort of complaint that a lot of men have, that oh, she nags, it's not about the nagging itself. It's more about the fact that they are unable to understand why you have to constantly go back to the same problem over and over. Again, I've used this example a lot in clinic with couples who have communication dysfunction. Men solve their problems. Women like to talk about their problems.
First,
Right.
we solve the problem later, but we have to
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in a man's mind, he will have already done the analysis of, is it worth exploring? Not really. If I come across this, will I do this? No. But I need a solution. Okay, so here's the solution. I'll do this. Next time I don't even need to talk about this. Because the more that you talk about it, the more it inculcates this belief that you are weak. Again, that you got it wrong. You did it wrong. Right? And because for us, if we don't do it, we don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, for women, as they enjoy taking things apart. They do, because that's a social dynamic. That is what they do. They talk. Men will rarely talk unless it is in their inner circle with very few trusted individuals. One very specific dynamic that men have, which I don't think women have. I mean, I'm not sure if they do. I don't think they do. Men will have friends with very specific roles. You will have the sporty friend, you will have the business friend, you will have the mechanic friend, you will have the party friend, right? Very specific roles. I mean, not to say that the others don't have that, they're not valuable, but you'll go to this guy for this and that and this and that. Women will generally spread it across, the entire swath of, yeah.
We don't have limitation.
Yeah. So with us, because again, the practicality is something that comes to the forefront. And again, because when we have that, we know that we're covered, right? There's no element which, we can fail in. Yeah, exactly. So, and that also should give you a good insight into how our problem solving is. If we have an expert, we will take that and go do it. We won't sit and ask, beyond the surface level of, okay, this is why. Okay, now I understand. I'll go do it. Because again, our role is performative. Men are performative beings. Why do men become depressed when they're unemployed? Because they're not doing something. They've lost their purpose. Women will often not feel it as deeply as men because their entire being is still validated even if they're not working. Again, the son of a millionaire who doesn't even need to work, but nobody will respect him. Nobody will respect him. Right? So our role, unfortunately, and this is something that young boys often struggle with, when they come to the realization that essentially your whole life is based on the fact that if you're not working, you are worthless. And by worthless, we mean a failure. Again, yeah, exactly. The best example I have is if we take the South Asian lens, men are basically just walking ATMs. Women are basically just incubators and babysitters. If we take it in the most distilled fashion we can, in the South Asian lens at least.
Yes, true.
Right?
So, while we are talking about mental health, while we are talking about friendships, and you talked about having a specific roles in a friends. On the other hand, women are, I think, they are connected by emotions and pain. Their friendship is more stronger when, maybe it's, you have faced a similar kind of pain, you have a similar kind of emotions, so the strength of bond would be greater. So even in my own in my own circle, I have very strong emotional support, and that goes for every woman. But if I would see any friend of mine struggling, a male friend of mine would be struggling, and if I would look around and see if there is anything similar that would exist for men, I have never found anything of that sort. I don't know if it still exists out there. I would love to know that. But I am very interested to know why it's like that. For example, if I would have 4 or 5 bunch of male friends and I'm sitting with them, their conversation with each other is going to be completely different. It's going to be about business. It's going to be even about women or whatnot. But if one of those guys would sit with me in person and it is just one-on-one conversation, the conversation can get vulnerable. Because I have experienced it at a personal level. A friend would act completely differently on a public space when there are more people involved. But if he's talking just to me, then he will try to express because he might feel safe or whatever. But I would have never seen him talking about anything on that level, express that much, be that vulnerable with the other guys around. Why not? Why do they feel emotion? Why do they feel that it is difficult to be emotionally vulnerable even with your own friends?
So I think the most basic way I can answer that is because we are taught that the only person you can rely on emotionally is your partner, as in your romantic partner. You do not rely on anyone else. Whereas women openly rely on their friends, openly. You can hang out with them, talk about it. With us, even amongst men who are not close to you, there's this facade of, we're stoic, I'll get it done, yeah, this is great. But in your close friends, if you know someone's going through something, and because we're men, we'll only ask once. Hey man, do you need some help? No, it's fine. Okay, fine, just let me know when you're good. That's it. That's the entirety of the conversation. And then we'll just carry on as if nothing's happened. I mean, Dr. Shabazz, you correct me if I'm wrong.
That's absolutely true. And something else, since you've talked about guys, I mean, if he's talking to you about his feelings and he's vulnerable, then he has feelings for you. 9 out of 10 times. That's something women need to understand.
Yes. Yeah, okay. So here's something I'm glad you said that, because this is something I wanted to address. Yes. So here's the thing.
Because, I can't share my feelings with any other person than my wife.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have the medical or expert opinion on that, but I don't think that could be 100% true, because this has
Of course, I
happened
said 9 out of
so many
10.
times. I don't think everyone has.
No. Yeah. So the thing is that, just to highlight that, basically what happens is that if men, as a general term, if they start relying on a female friend, let's say that she's a good friend or even the best friend, yeah, 9 out of 10 times they will start developing feelings for them. Why? Because this social expectation amongst us that you can only rely on this person for your emotional validation. 1. 2, because it's, she's a girl, in our mind, yeah, sure, why not? But the problem is that the dynamics of how women see social relations and how men see them is very different. Bit of a sidetrack. You know how they say that men and women can't be friends? They can't be platonic friends?
I always disagree with that.
Oh no, that's absolutely true. We can't. We cannot. Because at some point, if you're close enough...
Wow, you're changing narrative for my own life.
No. In my experience, it's been that you will inevitably develop feelings for them. Inevitably. The guy will develop feelings for them.
I think that creates another problem. So we cannot support our friends then?
No. Don't get me wrong. No. As long as you're clear on your boundaries. Because again, if you don't have boundaries, then that becomes a problem. But if you tell them, yeah, no, we're just friends, and that's how it's going to stay. Right? So it's super duper important that you have the boundaries beforehand. But
okay, I
yes.
have another question. So because
Yeah,
I
okay.
don't set well, I have very good friends. I can be friends with them and they are friends with me. So if you cannot be friend, how would you ever be able to support any person around you? If that creates a narrative that at the end of the day, 9 out of 10, that's a very high probability that you fall for that
Oh, yeah.
person.
No, but it's not.
So
Look,
the thing is, you have
having
to...
feelings and acting on them, one, are two separate things.
Yeah.
And secondly, it's
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
yeah,
so
it
how
is.
many-
You
how
have to
many
understand.
persons you can fall for just for the future?
No, this is not falling for. See, this is where women don't understand emotions for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just having
Yeah.
feelings does not mean that I'm in love with that person. All right, it's just somewhere between
Yeah.
platonic and maybe a love interest.
Hmm.
It's something
So-
that can develop. It's a seed that is there. It's a thing in a guy's head that, oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
vulnerable with her. I'm exposed to her. He has the potential for it to develop. It's always in a guy's back of his head. That's
Yeah.
something. If somebody says I
Yes.
don't have any feelings, then 9 or 10 times that's a lie.
Yeah.
You know.
So next time if I would be having a conversation, that will be going on back the back of my head.
So, actually, to touch on this, you have to remember with us, just because we have feelings does not mean that they are an appropriate partner for us. You have to remember that, because again, in our own mind, we have certain requirements that exist. You can like someone in the shall we say, more than a platonic sense, but you will never act on it. But that doesn't, that's the part that Dr. Shabazz is highlighting. Because for us, it's very easy to have feelings, but that does not necessitate we will act on them. We will only act on them, using the seed analogy, if she in return, reciprocates without boundaries. Because, again, for us, reading cues is a bit of a problem because,
Oh my God.
it's difficult. It is difficult. Yeah, exactly. It's and especially in today's day and age, unfortunately, this does actually segue into something that's equally important. Have you heard of something called the male loneliness epidemic?
I was coming to the loneliness
Yeah.
part, but
Yeah.
I would love you
Okay.
to,
So nowadays, there were some studies that were done, I think, a few years ago, where respondents were asked, men were asked, how many close friends do you have? And an overwhelming majority of them said that we have 0 friends. Whereas back in, I believe, the 70s, they said that they have 4 or 5 close friends, and these are the people who you will lean on in hard times.
Okay.
Now, because men don't have those close relationships, if you look at the statistics, we're at an all-time high of male suicides. We're at an all-time high of those kind of statistics coming out. And if we're on the topic of statistics, men typically commit less acts of suicide than women, but are much more successful in their attempts. Whereas women have higher attempts of suicide, but significantly less successful suicides.
Because
Right?
passively we are waiting for someone else to save us.
I wouldn't want to encourage that narrative that women need saving, but it is
Just pretend somehow you are
There.
still looking for someone.
It's just that
It's a
the
cry
method
for
of
help.
choosing suicide matters. For a guy, a gun to the head or jump off a building or a bridge is what they usually opt for. And those usually have fatal consequences.
Yeah.
As
There's
opposed to
significantly
women,
more serious ways.
it's overdoses and poisoning, and that's what we deal with. I've done emergency medicine for quite a while, and most of the women with suicide attempts are usually overdose on sedatives, or they'll have some poisons at home that they'll ingest, or some other things like that. So those now medical science has improved a lot, so most of them are saved. But if you jump off a
Men
building
make
or you
sure
shoot yourself in the
then they
head, that usually has dire consequences.
Yeah. And again, because men will usually they don't do what's called reactive suicide. If that makes sense. For women, usually what will happen is that they'll have a fight, and if it's been a long series of fights, they'll just walk into the kitchen and just slice their wrists, right? They'll just do something like that. Now, slitting your wrists isn't fatal if you do it poorly.
Yeah.
There's a very particular manner in which you need
Yeah,
to
let's
engage
not
with it.
talk about
But they'll do that, or they'll just yeah, exactly. Let's not.
Let's not provide
I'm not giving anyone
information
clues. So
Provide information on how to slit your
so yeah. So
I'm
there's
not even
that,
going to
or
highlight
they'll
how
just
it's
swipe bottles from the medicine cabinet.
Yes. Please take pills.
Oh
sedatives,
no.
that's your
So
best.
or yeah. So there you go. They'll take that and then obviously get rushed to the hospital. But if you're self-inflicted gunshot wound, you're probably not coming back from that, right?
Yeah.
So now the thing is that with that in mind, now that men are more lonely than they've ever been, it begs the question, why? Well, again, I mean, because of the state of relationships, everyone's favorite not relationship dynamic, the situationship, extremely common, right? It's extremely common, the commoditization of
Poor
sex and
bad
romance.
situationship these days.
There you go. The commodification of sex and romance, the alleged ease of relationships through online dating apps and whatnot. All of these have taken away the personal element.
Yeah.
Nobody's going out. Nobody's talking to anyone. No one knows how to socialize unless it's literally behind a screen. That has taken away the human element. And again, we're social creatures. We need to socialize. But if you've been brought up as a man with you have to perform, you have to succeed, you have to do this, that, but how do we do that, right? How do we do that without talking about our feelings? Because then, again, your feelings are either not considered serious enough to merit validation, or in the worst case scenario, you are ridiculed for it. Don't be such a girl. Oh, is it that time of the month? Those kind of comments are very common, very, very common, and again, even in male friend circles, they will occasionally make those jokes until they realize, oh, wait, no, this is serious. Okay, yeah, never mind. What's up, man? We still make those jokes.
Okay.
Because-
I mean-
There are a lot of points that are going on in my head. You're talking about loneliness being a human element. You're talking about joking it around. You are talking about all these social experiments that are going on, and even now the discussion about mental health that is associated with particularly men. We are having it with a humorous element in it. We are not
Yeah.
discussing it with emotions. There is a humor attached to it. We are
Yeah.
laughing about it.
Yeah.
But Is there any solution of using that idea that it is a human shared experience? It is a human element, being lonely. And if a man is only supposed to be vulnerable and express his feelings with the counterpart or their partner only, then how do we overcome with a person who doesn't have a partner or who doesn't have a very compatible partner, let's say? So how do men overcome this feeling? And let me add another element. Therapist is not the option. Therapy, not
No,
everyone
no,
can
no,
do
no,
it.
no, 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 no. No. So
I was going to say
every man will go down. Yeah, I mean that's a bit of a cheat though, because the thing is that while it
there's
exists,
nothing wrong with
men
therapy.
don't
See, that's a
like men.
stigma that I would also like to point out that
Yeah,
men have this stigma a lot
Yes,
more than women
yeah,
absolutely.
about going to a therapist or going for help.
yeah. Oh
I
yeah,
don't think there's anything wrong with
oh
that,
yeah.
and I would really like to
If
encourage
I
people
would,
who
if I
feel
would
if they
ask
can't
a
handle.
man, yeah, if I would
Yeah,
encourage a man to take therapy, a woman would talk about it. A man would be like,
yeah.
"Are you crazy?"
Because to go back to what was said earlier, it's an admission of
Admitted
failure to
one
manage your
moment.
life or to manage your problems. Yeah, it's an admission of failure. Oh, I go to therapy. Why? You couldn't handle
You
all
know, I
those big
needed somebody
feelings.
else's
You see,
help.
even
I
that
couldn't
that
do it
that
on
jo-
my own.
yeah, yeah. So the thing is, the alternative to therapy, in most men's lives, is substance abuse. So we're looking at alcohol, we're looking at cigarettes, we're looking at smoking up, we're going to be looking at drugs as well. Some men, a lot of men will also choose workaholism. They'll just work themselves like crazy,
Yes.
right? So again, because the thing is that if we, go back to the analogy earlier, again, there's nothing wrong with a man who engages in substance abuse as long as he's performative. Oh, he's working so hard. Of course he's going to smoke. Oh, he works so hard. What's wrong with a drink? You know? Oh no, he's out working late because he's such a dedicated partner or family man or whatever. All of these are baked into the experience, right? It'll actually be a little strange if you meet a guy who is working very hard and whatnot, and you offer him a smoke, and he's like, "I don't smoke." So for a minute, people kind of look at him like, "Huh, okay." There's that split second sort of
And
look.
there's another stereotype then.
See, there it is again. See, so the thing is that these are all small, very, very easily
He has
sort
a
of.
point. His smile is telling me he has a point.
I'm sure he does. Go ahead.
Substance abuse, Dr. Bhatti.
Yes. Oh, well, you have to understand fundamentally it's an escape. It's an escape from reality, or it's a break from
Yeah.
reality, or it's some way to, just let those bad feelings go. Or maybe for some people, it can be a state in which they can talk about these things or they can express them. For some people, they just do it because it's a habit now. There are lots of different reasons. But mostly, I feel it's an escape, or, just a little time where you can shut the voices down, all the things in your head and everything. It's a break from everything. That's one of the most
I
things.
just remembered. I just remembered a sentence. I think I saw it on Instagram or somewhere. I can't actually quote the resource, but there was a very true sentence. Someone said that when you are into alcoholism or when you are drinking to let go of the pain, all you are doing is prolonging that time. At the end of that drinking game, at the end of the hangover, the pain is just sitting there waiting
Oh
for
yeah.
you to get
Oh
finished,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's gonna get back to you. So what's the
Yep.
solution? It's a temporary
Of,
escape.
of
How do you
course,
cope
that's
up with
that's why
those?
it's wrong. We're not condoning it here.
Yeah. Absolutely not. We're not.
We're just
So
giving you a
look.
reason why people choose it.
But what's the
Yeah.
solution?
So, so,
Therapy.
so here's the thing, though. If I mean, yeah, therapy is always going to come back as a persistent solution to a lot of the problems that men typically face. But because of such a, shall we say, baked in narrative from the day that we're born, I mean, our parents, our grandparents, our great great grandparents, men were always they were shoehorned into this thing of perform. So, the thing is that until you normalize this narrative that just because you're struggling does not mean you have failed, you see, that narrative specifically needs to be removed. Now, I'll give you an example of something that is very common. Boys will be boys, right? Or boys don't cry. Boys don't cry. There. See, we use these so casually, so trivially, even though they have such long-reaching consequences. Boys will be boys, usually when they do something
Yeah.
which is problematic.
Yes.
You know,
Get away with
it
it.
Man
there.
up.
Then it's just just yeah, man up, be a man. Another one which I've a lot of my younger clients, nut up or shut up. So there's all these sort of very throwaway phrases which are used so commonly and so trivially that they just become part of the narrative anyway, passively, right?
No, very
Um,
actively as well. There are so many advertisements that would use the phrase "boys will be boys" and
yeah,
would create a scenario that is actually problematic.
yeah.
Just
But
because
the
of
thing,
that.
so the thing is, and something I read, I believe I read this somewhere. It's often said that boys are easier to raise than girls. That's not true. Boys are easier to neglect,
Yeah.
right? Now the thing is that thinking on that, it actually, to me as a clinician, that makes a lot of sense because there's always this emphasis of look after your girls. They're
Yeah.
delicate. They need safety. They need care. This and that. This and that. This and that. But with the boys, it's just like, if they get into a fight at school, the first question is not, why'd you have a fight? The first question is, did you win?
Yeah. Did you beat him up?
You know, um,
I was told
did you beat
growing
him
up,
up?
don't come
Right?
home, don't come home getting a beating. You better make sure you hit them back. Don't be the one to start, but don't
Yeah.
come back. So,
So,
I teach my daughters that now, though. You know,
yeah.
I tell them, just don't be the bully, but if somebody
Um,
hits you, make them pay.
You see, and that's the thing, though, because even with conflict of that nature, if you see two boys fighting, inevitably at some point the mother will always say that, why are you fighting? This is wrong. This is that. This and that. And the father will take the boy aside and say, did you hit him like I told you to? Did you win? So because again, nobody wants to have their child labeled as a weakling. Again,
If the daughter is being labeled with that one, so there's
so
a
the
fact
thing
that
is,
his
oh no, the daughter will not be called a weakling. She'll be called sensitive. And
Yeah.
that's a desirable quality to have in a woman because she's
there's again
sensitive.
some between the masculinity and being a feminine
See?
one.
So, and look, I'll take it one step further. A lot of the time when we're raising children, let's take a young boy who doesn't want to leave his bottle. Be a big boy, be a man. You don't need this anymore. Why are you behaving like this? You're not a baby, you're a big boy. Whereas with the girls, it'll always be like, yes, you're a big girl, but you can do this. You don't need this. It's okay if you want it a little longer, but it's okay, give it up. The narrative will it diverges very overtly, right? There's a strong component of, again, get bigger, get
Yeah.
stronger, be more independent, right? And you can see it. And again, if children, young boys, when they get into fights, again, the kid who won gets more playground respect. Why? Why? Because he's the alpha, or whatever narrative term you want to use. He's the
Sigma,
big boy.
In terminologies, it's like you
I'm
have to be
sure,
the
okay,
best
Sigma or Alpha or whatever it is nowadays. So,
Oh, that is a rabbit hole I'm not willing to go to on this discussion. But moving
oh
on,
no, please, no, 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 no. So, yeah, so that's just scratching the surface. By the way, that's just the surface.
Yeah.
I can't even speak for how many times peer pressure will motivate young boys to do drugs or smoke or alcohol or whatever. Again, it's a rite of passage in,
it was
again, Caucasian
adventurous.
homes
I mean, when
that
we were
fathers
kids,
will
it was all
take
about,
their,
you know,
beg your pardon.
it was adventurous for us when we were
So,
kids. Smoking was
yeah,
cool when I was growing
yeah.
up.
So, but in the
And
West, it is, again, it's a rite of passage that you will go through. But in the
yeah,
West, it's, a father will say, son, I'm going to have your first drink with me. Like, you're going to have your first drink with me.
yeah,
Which, again, is just kind of like, wait, what? Well, that's not really a desirable thing. But again, cultural lens plays a big role in this too.
yeah.
Yeah.
It plays a big role. So,
And the South Asian culture says something else though.
oh yeah, but the thing is that, remember, in South Asian culture, when it comes to being a man, it's all about extremely, unhealthy masculine traits. You have to be aggressive. You have to be independent. You have to be self-sufficient to the point of almost near isolation.
I
These are
think
not.
I think we all I think I won't only talk about myself, everyone in the Pakistan, or I'll talk about South Asian community, they would just be scared with the
Yeah.
existence of their father.
Yep.
Like
There you
the
go.
word, just the word is enough to feel that okay, we are going to be punished.
Yep. Yeah, just wait till your father gets home.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah. See, and again, why? Because usually he'll be aggressive, he'll be controlling, he'll be demanding. All these are not traits which are compatible with healthy emotional upbringing, right? Again, let's put it this way: a father who is very engaged with his children, plays with them and whatnot, you would think that that's something that's very welcome or very validated. But occasionally, you will always have this narrative of, oh wow, he doesn't have anything better to do with his life,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right?
He changes
So
the diapers or he helps around the
yeah,
house.
I mean,
I mean, it's quite often that you hear this in our society, and it's frowned upon. That, oh my God, you know.
yeah, yeah.
I think it's more of a scared relationship rather than a love and respect relationship with your parent. Then.
So the thing is, again, we're going to come back to the societal, cultural lens. The problem is that because over here, men, to be a good father by societal view, you only have to ask two questions and you're considered a very engaged father. How much is your school fees and what did you get on your exams? That's it. You just ask these two questions, you're an engaging father. That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do any, and notice both of these are performative. Why? Because if your child is doing well in school, you have paid for their fees, you have paid for a good school, you've put them in the appropriate place. And if they're not, how are you going to solve it as a father by paying more or a different school or you are providing.
Financially, basically.
There, yeah, because it all boils down to being the ATM.
Walking it.
It boils down to that. Yeah. So
Yeah, we just started talking about parenthood. Recently, I was having a conversation with a male friend of mine, and he was explaining parenthood to me because he's a father himself. So he said something like, we were talking about multiple dynamics in the life, not only parenthood, but he attached all of other roles with being a parent by saying that, when a man is a single man, he's like, he feels nothing, he's not reliable, he's not liable. But once he becomes a father, that's where he's bound. And the
Oh,
word
yeah.
bound was related to everything else in the life. So does being a parent or becoming a father has that much impact on a man's life? And should a man or a woman, two partners, do they really need to talk about start becoming a parent before they decide to be one? So how does that work when from the shift from being a single man or from being just a partner to being a father? Because obviously I think it's multiplied by infinity the responsibility.
I think it makes a big difference.
So Shabazz can do this one. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
parenthood is a big. For starters, I mean, obviously, it's a big responsibility, and it's just not the financial responsibility that I'm talking about. There's a whole human being that's reliant on you. For my example, I'll give you my example. Things that changed that I thought never would change. The way I drove changed. The way I ate changed. The way I sleep changed. Everything changed. Why? Because now there's another whole tiny human being who's dependent on me, who can't live or survive without me. So it was a big, huge change. The way I thought about things, the way my approach towards anything, it changed. It's definitely true that being a father really changes everything for you. And yes, although you can have as many discussions as you want with your partner about being ready or not, but I don't think you can ever be really prepared for it until you go through it. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll add one more thing. If a woman is becoming a mother, so it will be talked about from changing her body to changing her career, maybe to changing her
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
inevitable. Inevitable.
Yeah.
I'm not denying the fact, but at the same time, a man would not be talked about that he is becoming a father as well. At the same
So
time, if a woman loses a child, if she goes through miscarriage,
there.
yes,
she
that's
went
what I was
through
going to say.
miscarriage,
You
a
know,
Yeah.
man
yeah.
has no impact.
We don't talk about
And that's
men
that's
a lot.
exactly what I
It's
was.
the same thing again.
Yeah. So the
We don't
role
talk about
that men will occupy, the role that you will occupy from the moment that you consent to marriage onwards is not really something that is spoken about, because the transition from single man to married man It's not something that happens overnight. The same way the transition from married man to father does not happen overnight. It's usually a slow process, and the thing is that not everyone is appropriate for that role. Not everyone. You can be a great partner, but an absolutely garbage father, or the same way that you can be an
Or the other.
or the other way around, right? The thing is that, and Dr. Shabazz is very right, you are now the sole, not the sole rather, but one half of, a providing figure for a human being that you will nurture. What you do or not do with this child will impact its entire life. That is not a responsibility you take lightly. And this is as a parent. I would shift gears for a moment and say that it's the same when you get married. You now have this entire human being with hopes, dreams, and aspirations in your life, and you have to find a way to balance your own personality, likes, dislikes, and whatnot with them there, right? So the thing is that this transition, yeah, he's right. Your friend is right in that it changes your life, but I do also think that it's a little overstated because, again, the performative burden that men are expected to take. Now you're not just providing for your partner, you're also providing for the child. And normally, there's something that is very important over here, that men stop needing things once that happens. They just stop. It'll just be about the basics from that point going on. A man will not engage in luxuries because, again, he will feel guilty, or in some way he'll feel that he's depriving them. Right?
That's
So
the other.
So again, I mean, if he wants to get himself a Rolex or something like that, he's going to think a billion times before he can even justify the thought. He's going to put it out of his mind. He's like, this is useless. This is pointless. You can't do this. It's a waste of money. It's not practical. It's this, it's that. He's going to find a million reasons not to do it.
I think I have also experienced if the other person, a daughter or a wife, would gift him something that he likes, he would still take it as unnecessary thing. He should
Yep.
have done that.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. For the same thought, I give to you, I provide for you, I protect you. Notice again, the flow is from the male, from the father or the husband to the family. But to give it back is awkward. All of us feel, not all of us, most of men will feel very awkward about it. Because
I
again,
like the reverse.
we're not used to it. No, let me take it one step further. Something which is a very popular part of discussion with this topic is that men don't receive compliments. We don't. We don't. And we get extremely blindsided most times, or even just straight up uncomfortable if someone compliments us. Right? Especially if it's a woman. Oh, we get so awkward.
Confused.
Really?
Because, yeah, it's true. Yeah. It's like, what do you want? What do you? Because again, performative role. We will not be given compliments until we do something first.
So
Right?
9 out of 10 men have the capability to feel, but I think 1 out of 10 women would have the ability to compliment a man.
Try it in your life. See what happens with your friends. Just try
I
it and
totally
watch
agree
how
with
awkward your
friends,
male
just
friends
like
become.
that, Not on their looks or anything.
Just
other
try
things,
it. No. Something very, very trivial. An easy one is,
something to
that color looks good on you. That color looks good on you. Such a harmless little compliment. And watch that, or something along those lines. Just watch what happens.
I'm just thinking that it's not difficult. It's like we compliment females all the time.
See.
From their shoes, from their nail
Yep.
rings to whatnot. We
Yep.
compliment each other all the time. If you
Yeah,
look
if a
at
guy
social
said
media
nice
and
shoes,
women's
I'd be
pictures,
like,
they're
yeah, what's
men
wrong with
going
you?
crazy over women.
Yes, because again, if amongst men, it's usually along the lines of you solve that problem, great, you're doing great in life, you're a good father, you're this, that. Again, performative role. We're not going to look at each other saying, hey man, yeah, that shirt looks good on you, because the first thing you're going to make is most likely going to be some kind of joke about their orientation.
Yeah, you-
Literally the first thing you're going to do.
Say that.
So, you're just going to turn it around on them.
Yeah,
To look
always.
at that statement out of giving compliment, I think we take it as a compliment as well. Okay, yeah, we are.
Yeah, see? Easy for you because you've been raised with
all
that.
your life.
You've been given that, yes, from when you were very young. Boys, again, you're so strong. You know, you're so good. You know, you're responsible. Yeah, when was the last time somebody said to a girl, "You're so strong"?
Now
Right?
sometimes we do.
So, again, when I say
Nowadays
strong in
it's
the sense, in the physical sense, yours is, yeah, right? So, again, there's that context as well. Is it physical or is it more psychological, emotional? Even that, you know, is a debate into
I think
itself.
it's the two complete poles. Like women won't be complimented for their physical strength, guys won't be complimented for their emotional strength.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Two different.
Here's something that I think you might have heard as well. You know, boys don't cry. I mean, obviously, we've all heard that phrase because this inculcated belief that the male figure, whether it's a brother, a son, a husband, whatever it is the backbone of that family unit. If they cry, the whole unit falls apart. Right? That's why, again, women can cry, they can talk about it, whatnot. With us, no. If we talk about it, everything falls apart. Someone has to be there to kind of ground the whole family or ground the family unit, right? Again, it's a huge problem because I mean I say this quite often. Men are not allowed to grieve. You use the example of the father of a miscarriage. You're not allowed to grieve.
You're supposed to be there for your
So
wife.
you know, just there you go. See, be there for her. She went through it. That baby
Yeah.
grew inside
It was
her.
inside her,
And
it
you-
was,
and you have to
all
watch
those
your-
things, it's her body
Yeah.
and whatnot.
Yes.
It's actually very tragic.
It is, but that's the reality again of the space that men occupy emotionally. It is true,
I think
and
it's a traditional role from being a baby to being a teenager to being transitioning into an adult human being and finally being a father. There are traditional roles that are defined with very defined limit, and if I'll put it in a short term, it's like you just provide. That's it.
essentially, yeah, that's the key role that you have to fulfill.
What
The
kind
rest
of
is just a
mental
bonus.
What kind of mental impact does it have on a man? The traditional defined roles, specifically in Eastern culture.
Well, I mean, depression for starters. You know, because again, if you don't, for a lot of men, we have this problem where we will always be looking for the next goal, the next achievement, the next plateau, the next benchmark.
And it's never enough.
We'll never have enough.
Yeah,
We'll never
there you
have.
go.
Yeah. See?
It's we haven't talked about this before, you know. It's the same thing. Yeah. Every guy, a lot
Yeah.
of people watching this would have had the same thought that it's never enough. There's always the next. You know, if I get a paycheck, I'm thinking about the next paycheck.
Yeah, yeah. So here's the thing: if what happens is that for us, it's a never-ending cycle. If I'm earning X amount, I'm always thinking of what am I going to do when I get X plus 2, and that becomes my benchmark, right? My wife, she can get a better car. My kids can go on vacation. My kids can go to a better school. They can wear better clothes, better phone, better this, that. But notice how none of it is about me. I'm not thinking about how it benefits me. I'm thinking about, again, my partner. What is she wearing? Where is she going? What is she eating? My children, what are they wearing? Where are they going? What can I provide for them? It's always, it doesn't matter. You even as a billionaire, you will still think that you haven't made enough. Because the thing is that we're always looking to give more and more and more because our role is performative. Again, and even if your partner says something along the lines of, you know what, you're a good provider and we have enough, you're going to look at her like she's crazy. Like, I am not joking. You will actually look at her like, what the hell is wrong with you?
There's always a feeling of
Right?
inadequacy.
Because-
you know, you have to understand this
There.
thing is always
There.
there. There's always that you need to do more. You need to do more of this or more of
Yeah.
that, or there's something that is always left or something that's overlooked. And it ultimately leads to depression
and-
being
and-
sad and unfulfilled
There.
and alone.
Because there's also something else that I think often gets overlooked. There's always this passive comparison with your peers or with other people in your vicinity. Passively.
Comparison
You know?
is a disastrous thing.
It is.
It's applied usually.
It is, but the thing is that even again, let's take the South Asian lens. I know our parents, no matter how much they might try, and bless them for it, they will always end up making a comparison somewhere, somewhere. Why didn't you get this
I
much?
got
Why didn't you
7 A's. This
perform
time,
this much?
this
Look at your
past
cousin.
time, he got 8 A's.
Yeah, there you go. See, right?
90% only. It could have been 90%.
No, there you go. You got. I come home with 90%. It's just oh yeah, XYZ's kid got 98. Why didn't you? And you can't really respond with because their kid is socially disaffected and doesn't know how to talk to anyone and literally spends all day in the library
Yeah,
because that's not an appropriate response.
I have a life
It's
too.
more towards the women's side, it's more towards the daughter side. But let's say even if you get 99%, but you
Yeah.
don't cook well of biryani. So it's always
See-
a comparison between different things. Yes.
But you have a choice. See, a guy can't say, "But I cook really well." You're right? They're gonna get laughed at.
But you do, Bilal. You
You
do very
know,
well.
they're gonna get laughed. They're gonna see, and again, they're gonna get laughed
And
at.
he's still single,
But
by
with
the
a
way.
woman, it's usually that. There you go. Right? Again, it's
Tragic and funny at the same time. I'm sorry.
no, don't be sorry because that's the reality that needs to be discussed. Look, you still have the option. You can work or you can choose domesticity. A stay-at-home guy, oh, so many questions about his masculinity, so many accusations about his masculinity, so many accusations about his virility as well, right? There's going to be a laundry list of rumors and accusations and whatnot. Why? Why? Even though he could be the best father, best husband, best everything, but he's not fulfilling that pigeonhole, of being a performative male member of society, right? So, it doesn't matter how well you cook. No one's going to respect you. Exactly. Well, I mean, unless he has a cafe or restaurant, because again, performing. Even if he's the head chef, still performing, right? Notice again, there's a societal contributory expectation. You have to
It
do
boils down to
something.
money.
You can't be stay at home. Yeah, there we go. Right? So there's a bunch of these things that
Dr. Bhatia, I must say one thing. I think in while coping up with life, you have added very good humor to your life. You have a joke for everything.
yeah, he's a funny guy.
If you can't laugh at yourself, you're not really going to be doing so well. People should have the ability to laugh at
We
themselves.
usually say
Yeah.
that, we have
Yeah.
learned to make dark humor out of our own miseries. So I
Okay,
think
yeah.
That's a
it's
gift.
a coping mechanism.
It's my lifetime of
So-
trauma that brings me to.
No, funnily enough, that's actually true. People who are able to make dark humor, like who are able to make dark jokes, are considered to be significantly more intelligent than their peers who cannot. It's proven scientifically. It's proven. So, he's a smart guy, is all I'm saying. So, I mean, he's a neurosurgeon. Of course, he's a smart guy.
True.
So, yeah. Yeah.
Discussion's not gonna end, but the time is. I still think that people might listen to it, but they won't be taking too much action. I hope they do. But any final word before I conclude the session from either of
Ooh.
you guys?
You know what? An old favorite. It's okay to not be okay. An old favorite.
Absolutely.
And I'd say it's okay
It's okay to
get
not be
out.
okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
it sums up almost everything. Um,
Yep.
But yeah, I think before I wrap up the episode, I do want to, have say my gratitude to both of you for sharing your side of wisdom, your side of perspective, your experiences with life. It is all of this conversation, all of this session has been a very powerful reminder for all the challenges that you guys face, all of the men, all of the stereotypical challenges, the societal expectations that actually often force all of you to be into silence rather than speak about anything. But we have also discussed that comes to the bottom point of all the small and meaningful actions that we can all take, not just men, women as well, we can all take to rewrite the whole narrative that exists around us. Mental health, very important. It's a shared human experience. It does not have to be defined towards one gender. Men, like all of us women, have the freedom, should have the freedom to express their struggles, to express their emotions, to seek support, and especially without the fear of being judgment. So each one of you out there, whether it is a man or a woman who are trying to help men in their lives, I think we should do some more effort and create an environment where the vulnerability for the men would be respected and appreciated at the same time, whether it's for a sibling, whether it's for your partner, for a friend, or even a colleague. We have to create that space where we can be all ourselves without the fear of being judged or being labeled towards anything. And for that, I think everyone who's struggling, everyone who's struggling, just start with having a conversation. Just start speaking, even when it feels really hard or uncomfortable. Because believe me, the more we talk, the more we break the silence, the more we solve the problem, the more we become happy. So it's more of taking the initial step. Have to be, I think, I must say that it is supposed to be very hard, especially for men, but it is extremely important. Thank you so much for all of you for joining us today. I will just say one thing, that speaking, speaking just with a little bit of words, everyone around you, it's a closed one, it makes big impact. So just try to take that initiative, and don't forget to subscribe the series Building Bridges, Not Walls, for more meaningful and thought-provoking conversations. Until next time, be kind to others and be kind to your own self as well. And remember that every small step that we take towards compassionate, towards understanding, can lead to big changes. So take care, everyone. Until to the next episode. Bye bye.